Architectural Builders Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
Solved for a mess that we created. I didn't realize that closer that you sold to us in our last order was sort of like a 2-in-1 product. I was thinking it was an outbound closer, but it turns out it's like, mortised into the jamb and in the floor. And it serves as a hinge as well as a closing product, which is awesome. I don't know, why we haven't done that in the past. The issue that I'm having is I've already installed into the can you hear me all right?
Oh yeah, you're fine.
I already installed those pivot hinges on our previous order to an 1.5 inch thick by 8 foot tall by 3 foot wide door. Just leave it at the front door, like on the front step. I already installed those hinges, and so now we have a free swinging, pivot door that works real well. Nobody has a problem with that. They just need to figure out a way to get it to be soft closing. Can you help me work out what the best solution would be, given that, we have like 3 days before they want to open and everybody's stressed out?
Well, I would simply install the closer that you already have. I would be up in the header mortising all of that.
Uh-huh. That's the best way to do that, is to put that larger, heavy, it's a really heavy-duty component. My fear is, I don't know. I haven't tried loosening it at all. And I just kind of put the little lever on the thing and tried to open and close it, and it's like it takes a lot of force. I don't know if that's...
Well, I don't know. Force is going to be measured force is going to be measured 33 inches away from that pivot point, something like that, for sure. So the question that you asked was, what's the best way to do it? You need something done in 3 days. So that's the approach there. If you said, I've not installed any of this stuff, what's the best way to make this double-acting door self-closing? We would have more options that we would discuss. There is no modern or current surface-mounted door closer that is double-acting. There was one that existed about 100 years ago. It was either by Rixson or Sargent, and I've actually seen them. It was a pot-belly closer that literally allowed you for it to be double-acting. So, is the issue, and I understand that the answer is likely yes, trying to chisel all of that header out for that closer body?
Yeah, that's going to be one of the issues.
Yeah.
But it sounds like this is what we need to do. But the clearance between the jamb and the door is real tight, because we were using that awesome pivot door hardware, and
But
it seems like the best thing to do is to take the door, cut it open so that we can fit that closer in like the bottom portion of the door where there's more wood and meat, because there's just like 5 inches or 4.5 inches worth of style, and top rail we've only got 4.5 or 5 inches of meat up there, whereas in the bottom we've got 14 inches of solid wood.
So are you considering... So I didn't understand much of that. Why... so the top rail of your door looks like it's about 5 inch tall.
Uh-huh.
And that wouldn't be a limitation to installing that overhead concealed door closer.
Does the larger portion of the mechanism that's got springs in it, does that have to go into the jamb?
It goes in the header. Yes,
it
goes in the frame. It would go in the header. It would never go in the door.
It would never go in the door. What about installing it to the floor, if there's enough room?
So 3 things. Overhead concealed, that's what you already have, mortising the header and then remortising the top of the door for the modified arm. The good thing about that is your bottom pivot's going to stay right where it is. That's one.
Yeah.
Number two, you do a overhead concealed door closer where the body is mortised in the top rail of the door.
Yeah.
The issue with that is at 1.5 inches thick, I don't know that you're going to find one that will fit. I'd have to research that to see if 1.5 inches is going to be a limitation.
Yeah, because I mean, this mechanism looks like it's nearly 3 inches wide.
It would never fit in the door itself. That's
right.
That header you have, that closer you have, only goes in the header of the frame. You mentioned a floor closer. That closer you have cannot act as a floor closer. It's not built for that. You can. I can sell you a floor closer that is going to do the job perfectly perfect. The question becomes what is the path of least resistance? Busting a hole in that floor or mortising a prep in the header? The problem with the floor is you've got to think about, how am I going to really core this out? I'm going to have to be 4 inch deep. I'm going to have to be 12 inch long or whatever. Yeah. And I'm going to have to be 4 inch wide or 6 inch wide. So those are the 3 ways to do a concealed closer. I think in your existing scenario is that you just chisel the header, assuming you've got enough wood up there to actually mount it.
Yeah.
But a floor closer is a far better idea because that closer does the job of the bottom pivot, and it will last decades. And it's really nice because you're going to have a product at the end of the day that's going to last several decades. You'll have full control over it. You can order it physically handicapped so that it's a reduced opening force. But that piece of hardware is several hundreds of dollars more than what you already have.
I see.
So it may or may not be realistic to do that, because I'm thinking that a big giant hole in the floor may not be possible. Is it a wood floor by any chance?
It is a wood floor. I just don't know how much wood we have at the base. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be no more than an inch worth of wood and soft things before we get to concrete. So I think going into the floor is probably not possible. And it sounds like we just need to suck it up and mortise the header and remortise the door up at the top. But then my question is, well, the way that the pivot hinges work that we have already in there's that little pin up at the top in the header piece that you can raise and lower, which captures the door in its hardware and allows you to have a nice tight fit. But I'm looking at this closer hardware, and it doesn't appear to work the same way. That little notch is sticking out.
Yeah, you're going to need what's called a side load arm, and what that means is there's going to be a small notch now in the face of the door. And that allows you to put the door on the bottom pivot and then tip the door up towards the spindle coming out of the closer, and you connect the male spindle into the female prep of the top arm through the face of the door, and there's a decorative, it ain't decorative, it's just a piece of architectural metal, 1 inch wide and 3/4 tall, and a couple of screws, that kind of thing. The operative word is you have to have a side load arm to do, a side load arm in order to really do that. Otherwise, you have no way to get the male and the female components together.
That's what we're...
load. Yeah. To you, it'd be like, well, I don't see how this is going to work, because what you have now is probably an end load. There's no realistic way to make that happen.
When you say an end load, you mean like from the 1.5 inch wide edge of the door, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how everybody does it.
Well, that's how it's done in applications that aren't wood, like in aluminum. You can so your pivot point is, let's say, 2 inches from the end of the door. In order to get the spindle through the door to the arm, are you going to chisel a big giant 2 inch long mortise that's 1 inch tall and have all that exposed? When you open the door to 90 degree, you're going to look at the top edge of the door, the 1.5 inch part, and see this big giant prep there that, like, what is that? You'd need that for an end load arm, which for aluminum storefront is typical, or hollow metal, it would be typical.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that's what we have to do in this case, right?
If you want this door to be double acting, I'm thinking that's the low-hanging fruit. The question becomes is there an end load, is there a side load arm available for that closer? What I need to do is pull up the catalog.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the side load means that the decorative plate is on the face of the header, right?
It's on the face of the top rail of the door.
Oh, I see.
You're always
right.
going to see
right.
that part. Right. It's you could paint it to match walnut. You like your walnut. I see that in your photos. Hey, walnut's awesome.
Yeah, right.
And so, what I would suggest the next step is I will do the research and I will send you an email within the next 45 minutes showing what a side load looks like and the arm. Assuming that one is available for that closer, which I believe that it must be, and if it's not, then here's a door closer body and a side load arm that you need to make that thing self-closing. Is this this is a commercial space, obviously, with the...
It is a commercial space,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. In the future, it's just an option that you'll offer, at the design stage. We can make these doors self-closing, and then what's really cool about that is you'll take your header and you'll prep all that in the flat. You'll be doing that at your workbench. I could create a tool path in my CAD/CAM software and send it to you and show you what it needs to look like. It's really super easy.
Yeah.
But when you're 8 feet in the air, how are you actually going to do that? Are you going to get a rolling cart, a scaffolding, and then get yourself a blanket and a pillow to lay on as the chips are hitting you in the face as you're doing it laying down, like Leonardo da Vinci painting a ceiling? How will you do that? So you'll have to think that through.
Yeah.
Or
Leonardo da Vinci style.
Yeah, pull the casing off, pull the jam out, and then do it in the flat. But how much of that are you going to destroy in the process?
Right. We have to go on site and figure out how that's going to be.
It's going to be
okay.
But it's not impossible. I would only recommend that there be some guy standing there with you with a dust vac, picking all of it up so it's not falling on you.
Sure. All right. Well, it can be done, and we'll be able to get pretty close to the edge of the casing, with the router, and just chisel out the rest. It'll be okay.
Yeah. There's going to be a decorative plate up there, and, just...
It's fine.
Take your time.
Yeah. If you can sell us a very dark bronze cover plate, that would be great.
For sure. Yeah. I'll send that a link to that piece of hardware as well.
Yeah, and if you show me pictures of what this looks like, that really expedites things because I can just put that in front of the customer and say, hey, option 1 is you have this decorative plate in the door from one of the face. Option 2 is it's not in the face of the door; it's on the back edge of the door, right? And I think they're going to. Am I right in believing that both of those options are possible here?
Yeah, it's just if the door needs to be self-closing, this is the least inelegant way to do it at this point. In the future, a floor closer is awesome because people don't even know it's there.
And I didn't know that was an option, so we're all learning. But, I'm sure they're going to say, well, hey, put the cover plate on the back edge of that door so that nobody sees it up there, right? Versus, it's on display for everybody to see when it's on the face.
So that's where the response is, I understand your words. There just happens to be a century of hardware evolution that tells me that that's impossible to do that. If you try to do that, you'll create other problems. You'll create other problems because now you're going to have to mortise it not at the top, but at the bottom as well. Because you're not going to be able to get the door to tip like that while you're secured on your bottom pivot.
I see. So it has to be in the face of the door. I got you. All right. Well,
wood door, it has to be.
Okay, cool. Now I understand. Thank you for clarifying. If you send me those photos, and I really appreciate you working up a quote for the parts that we need, I'm going to get this resolved for the customer today, if at all possible.
Yeah. I'm also going to send you another piece of hardware. I just thought of it. The typical Bomber 7800 series horizontal spring pivot. You may be able to make that work. Does this have to be handicap compliant?
I presume so. It's a commercial space.
Okay. So our decisions, what we're moving forward, is going to be based on knowing that information, including possibly a different closer body. So I'll look and see what you bought to see if it's handicap compliant. I simply don't recall. I know that there was one, and I'll discover that, and I'll have that to you within about 45 minutes. I'll have you.
Fantastic. Oh, you know, it would totally save my butt if what we purchased was not ADA compliant, and that's why we have this problem. Then my butt is totally saved. But, you know, let's depend on the facts. I'm just thinking about the customer service element of this. You there? Hello? You cut out, Richard. Hello? Richard? Hello? Hello? Hello, Richard? Hello? Oh, here you are.
Yeah, my headset's going crazy. I apologize.
No sweat. Yeah, I was just saying, please do check if what we have is even ADA compliant. Because if it's not, then that's how I save my butt.
I will alternate option, and then side load arm, and then letting you know if what you have is kosher to begin with. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got to tell you again, I don't know if I think I mention this every single time we work together. I love working with you. You're so helpful. It's unbelievable. No one has any answers except for you, dude. You're the best.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. It sounds corny, but hardware is actually my life's work.
I can tell, and it shows, and it's wonderful. And I'm just so happy that I've found a great working partner. And furthermore, I would just suggest, apart from this 911 scenario for the customer, if I want an actual education in this stuff so that I can actually know what I'm up against when a customer says, I want a door of some kind. Please, I want to learn what is the trickiest, most badass hardware that we can, work into our stuff that absolutely sets it apart from everyone else. I want to know all about that.
So I've just recently bought a CNC machine, and I spend, hours every week becoming more increasingly proficient at creating the tool pathing for it. And the reason is, the tool was bought to help me personally with stuff in terms of just shop stuff. But now I've realized I need to figure out what manufacturers cannot do that I can do on this tool. And right now, today, there's a customer who needs a custom threshold, and what he wants cannot be achieved. There's no manufacturer that can make it. Well, I can easily leverage that CNC tool and a piece of plate aluminum to make exactly what the client wants. No deviation. And you need to find out how you shoehorn in. So, one of the instructors I've had in my life has basically said, and he didn't make this saying up, it's a typical engineering saying, if complexity comes for free, meaning if you can leverage your inherent skill set to separate you from your competition, why wouldn't you? If you're already better and you're not leveraging your better tool set, So we do that together is what we're doing.
Yeah. Honestly, that's where I would like to be. And I know that there are people who would jump all over it too, because they're tired of trying to figure it out on their own, and then having it be a hodgepodge solution, or compromising and staying within the box every time. If there's something that we can work on together, being able to do some trickier stuff that sets us apart, then I have customers that will write us in directly to the plans and specify us for doing that, right? We'll get hard spec'd on projects.
Yeah, that's happened to me in the past where someone's called and said, "Yeah, you're in the specifications," and I thought, I did something right somewhere. Hey, you know what? It would be cool for me is once a month, once every 2 months, put it on your Google Calendar, and noon on Wednesdays or whatever or Saturdays for that matter. We can do a 10, 15, 30-minute conversation about,
what's
how
available
to mutually leverage our skill sets to advance the penetration of, the market. The marketplace is finite. How can we eat a bigger piece of the pie? That's what we're looking at.
100%. And I have big customers who are so frustrated. You know, they're so frustrated, and it's crazy because what ends up happening is, you know, across their giant business, you know, because they do business in, you know, 40 out of 50 states, you know, somebody in California did a project custom with somebody like me, and now that guy is providing 100% of that solution across the whole business for all the 40 states, just because nobody fucking knows 1 + 1 = 2, and they're just doing what they did before. And that guy's collecting literally monopoly rents for this sort of thing. And it, you know, it's either he's getting all that business or the people in the architecture firm don't even know what the other hand is doing, right? And so they're not even designing that because the solution that the architecture firm has created with whomever in California or wherever they are, that hasn't even made it across their office, right? So it's like we could have the same solutions as that other guy, and the people within the office don't even. They're going to use us every time, you know, if we market to them.
Imagine if you come up with something and now you've got a government contract.
Yeah, or dude, you know, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Like, how many doors are in a condo building? You know, imagine just being hard spec'd for a condo once a month. Like, that is so much money, you know? So, yeah.
That's why we get up and fight every day.
Well, I'm actually, you know, we're all custom all the time. We don't have really any bread and butter, which is so painful. I mean, I would really love to figure out how to scale the business in a way that isn't so dependent on really specialized and extensively skilled people, just because it's not sustainable, right? You know, even a small amount of turnover is dramatic for the capabilities of the business, project to project. So, you know, I got to figure out how do I quintuple this thing with some bread and butter work. And, you know, like many other millwork companies, I'm coming to the conclusion that, you know, neither needs to be like doors or it needs to be cabinetry, you know, or tables, you know, like it needs to be something that, you know, the average person can be trained up to do over the course of a couple weeks. You know, they can do their portion pretty proficiently and part of a team that can crush it. But, you know, I'm wondering, you know, I mean, maybe one thing that we can put on the agenda is, you know, how to get into the, you know, how I can get into the door industry in a more advantageous way where we're just working together all the time on trickier stuff until we get the capacity to do more like average things. You know, that's higher volume, lower margin, you know, more flow.
Yeah, I do that kind of work. I've got a very large client in Maine, and they needed a lock that does not exist. It didn't exist until I collaborated with Accurate in Connecticut. So there's the one of only one that exists in my showroom. It is a electronic combination lock with a key for a sliding door. So you can have sliding doors, but ain't none of them electronic combination. So you've got a PIN code that you need to operate this sliding door. And we were able to take, you know, we kit bashed, if you've ever heard that term, if you played with trains as a child, you're going to take part of the gas station model from here and put it over here on your railroad, you know, roundabout, your turn. So when you take parts, so we kit bashed this thing, and they made it work. And
wow,
it's exclusive, and it just starts with, I think I can do that. And
well, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, we can definitely crush it when we come up with solutions like that. And I've got clients that are ready to go for this sort of thing. I just need to work it out and make sure that the solution that I'm talking about is going to work. And you know, I've got so little time to do anything that's not an actual project that people are paying money for. So I need help. And working with you is, you know, going to be part of the way that we actually get across the finish line.
Yeah, when you're encountering a new scenario, call me and just say, hey, let's bounce ideas off each other. And it's, you know, I'm valuable only because I partake in a lot of conversations where people are just looking to try to put a round peg in a square hole.
Yeah, well, you're much more than that to me, and I look forward to working with you more in the future.
All right, sir. I'll send you an email shortly.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. So we've heard what the client's faced with, what was supplied, and what they're working with. He saw the pictures, and let's move into looking at what the client purchased and what the client will likely need, along with hopefully troubleshooting what the work needs to look like, and then explaining the end load versus side load sort of issue as well. I don't know if that overhead closer was bought with the idea that it was for a wood door. That wouldn't really be the proper closer for a wood door. It can be made to work. Just making some notes to myself. However, you're going to want to really select a piece of hardware that's meant for the application. And I'll explain what that means. And it basically means that overhead concealed door closer body is really too large to fit neatly into a wood header. And we'll look at some options. So let's switch to the screen view. Let's look at what the client has already. Let's look at what may work, and let's look at what for sure will work. And we'll talk about the overhead concealed in the header, the overhead concealed in the door, and then the floor closer as well. Let's do that right now. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. So we're going to start off with what the client ordered, and that was the 8160A. And again, I don't recall how we got to that closer, but it's C.R. Laurence. It'll be under Architectural Hardware, their Architectural Hardware catalog, and it's a large document. And actually what I'm going to do is open it up twice. Control F. We'll do an 8160A. That's the part number of what they ordered. And we'll open it over here as an 8160S, which is the side load arm. I just happen to know that. And as we're waiting for the search to occur on this nearly 1,000-page catalog. Okay, 8160A. Here it is. So first of all, the client did say that it needs to be handicap compliant. So for sure, the 8160, so it's CRL, C.R. Laurence, it's an 8160, so that's a medium spring. It's an A because it's an end load, and we'll talk about that in a moment. It refers to how the arm and the spindle connect to each other. The 8160S, the S is the side load, again, how the spindle and the arm connect to each other. But the client really needs an 8960 body, possibly with an S arm, a side mount arm. Because it's a wood door, you're certainly going to need a side mount arm. So the closer is wrong for the spring tension, and it's also wrong for the arm style. So far we're looking at an 8960S. Now the issue that's going to come up here is I don't believe we're going to easily find installation instructions for this, but let's take a peek. And we did, in the sense that there's something on the C.R. Laurence site that's going to work. So these closers are really meant for aluminum headers. That's just the bottom line. Now, adapting it to a wood header, wouldn't be impossible. But as you can see here, you're going to have not only the depth or the thickness of the header to fit the body in, but you're going to have a provision to get this bracket, this mounting bracket that you see here and here, and the one here and here attached to the header first, so that you can then bring the body into the installation, and it's resting over on this side on these tabs in that end bracket, and that goes towards the jamb, what would be the pivoting jamb. And then this angle bracket gets attached to the header. You'd have to use some wood screws, and then it is literally attached to the end of the door closer, and that holds it on there. And that's how that's done. So adapting it to a wood application is not impossible, but that header, being existing, is likely not going to be agreeably adaptable to getting this installed.
if you've got a standard 1x material, the jam's only 1 inch, 3/4 thick. And then there's probably metal studs behind there. So this is not going to work no matter what, regardless of the wrong arm style. So we've got end load and we've got side load. What that means is, I can reuse some of this actually. And actually what the client has is not unlike this. So that closer is going to sit in here, up in the header. That spindle is going to be here. You're going to have to get that arm connected to the spindle. The issue with that is, in order to get the spindle brought to where you'll install the arm, you would have to mortise the top of the door out pretty much like this. It'd be a large, maybe a 1 inch tall mortise. That would be whatever the template calls out. 2 inch long. I don't know if the instructions give us that dimension, and what I'm referring to is, what I'm referring to is the dimension from the jamb to the center line of the spindle, and that's probably 1 3/4 inches. Something in that range would be certainly easy enough to measure on the actual closer body itself. So you would have to have a big mortise in the top of the door. Now with a side load, as you see here, what you end up doing is mortising the face of the door, or more aptly said, you'll notch it. So the spindle is going to be here. You then notch the door here so that you can tip the door in place, and the spindle really sneaks through this notch in the door. So rather than notching it here, you're notching it here, and then there's a cover plate that would normally go on there. The issue is, it's really not typical for a wood door application, even though it's extremely typical for a wood door application where it's a side load. So let's take a look at, and because C.R. Laurence doesn't have a great amount of supporting documentation, I'm going to cheat and go to the old standby of, well, let's go to Rixson first, because Rixson for sure is going to have a good description of what an end load and a side load arm look like in their catalog. Yeah, so yeah, really great. The H28, really great example here. So this is a great example of an end load arm, and we'll take a look at the template for this. Here is the same closer with a side load arm. Side load arm for 1 3/4 inch thick doors. Yeah, they really, I guess they don't call this out specifically or define what end load is, but that's how normally this would be installed. There'd be a notch in the door. So let's get a Rixson H28 template, and they will hopefully show the 587 arm on there as well. Maybe this. Yeah, great. Yeah, they don't show the 587 arm. Okay, so the bottom line is an end load arm. We're seeing note 7 right here. Note 7. Door must have a removable heel to allow tightening of arm by others. The removable heel is by others. Access panel is what they're calling it. Must go from top of arm to bottom of door, and it's shown right here. You've got to notch all that out. But the thing is, on the overhead concealed closer, you'd be doing it at the top of the door, is where you'd be doing it. Same concept. So let's see if we can pull up an H28 with a 587, or the side load arm. Yeah, well, maybe. No, don't like that one. Let's see about documentation. Nothing. Broken link. Well, kind of works. This is where you've got to make that notch. And this is how you would do it for a wood door application. This is the right way to do it with a side load arm. Special side load arm for or for 1 3/4 thick doors, or for moving pivot point towards lock edge of door. That's really important. If you're going to move the pivot point, this line here, over to like 12 inches over, the only way you can really do that is with a side load arm. You couldn't do it with an end load arm. You'd have no way to get the door over the top and bottom spindles, is the bottom line. So let's now go over to LCN and let's talk about the 3 different closer types. If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos in the sense that, it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something, or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Now, we could most certainly use Rixson for this as well, because they do make, I'm not sure if they make overhead concealed indoor. Anyway, we'll look at the Rixson catalog. LCN. Actually, let's stay with Rixson because floor closers. Let's start at the bottom. Since we're on the H28, you want to do a concealed double acting floor closer. Well, it's not the H28, that's single acting. You want to do a double acting center hung closer. Something like the Model 40 would be exquisite. This is going to double act. It is concealed because it's in the floor. What I don't like is the okay. Okay, great, awesome. So yeah, the 40, I just missed it on the page apparently. The 40 is going to give you the ability to do a wood arm, a wood door arm package D. So if it's a wood door, you're going to use this arm that's specially made for the wood door type of application. So you'll definitely need that. And in this instance, you're going to tip this down on top of the spindle. It's not going to be a side load or an end load. You're just going to tip it down. And that's because it has a top pivot where it's a walking beam pivot where you can retract the pin. So when all of this is attached to the bottom of the door, you can rest the door on the spindle. The spindle goes through the prep in the arm, tip the door down, rest it on it, move it into the opening, open the door to 45 degrees or so, and you'll be able to rotate that screw and drop the pin down and secure the door, the pivot pin into the top of the door, and now the door's in the opening. So that's a floor closer. Let's skip over to LCN for overhead concealed material. And LCN does a really good job with this information. So yeah, here would be the 6030 would be an option. Yeah, you can do it. You can do a wood frame for this. You just have to have the wood mounting set. Before you go ordering hardware, you got to make sure it's going to come equipped with what you need. This is a top pivot that's here. This is a Ives top pivot. I don't remember the part number. It's easy to look up, but it's a I was about to say special. It's not a special pivot. But the Ives top pivot is small enough to fit in this space, whereas if you tried to install the 6030 series closer with, say, the pivot that the client has, which is likely a Rixson 370 pivot set, which would have, I think, a 340 top pivot, it's not going to fit. The Rixson top pivot is too long to fit in this space. Okay, so this would be an overhead concealed closer where the body is in the header. Oh, so very important. It says minimum 1 3/4 thick header. Client does not have that. And that 6030 is really common for those applications. That's overhead concealed in the header and overhead concealed in the header as well. Yeah, here's one. This is meant for overhead concealed body in the door. This 3130 series. That's going to go into the top of the door right there. Yeah, and that 3130, it's going to go into the top of the door like this. But you have to make sure that what you're looking at is going to work in the door type, the steel or aluminum or wood that is necessary. With this closer, because it's so far not very clear, I'm looking to see what sort of fasteners are included. Yeah, Torx machine screws. Well, that's definitely a tip-off that that's not going to work. You've got a 3030 style. The 2030 is also overhead concealed, extremely common. This is the one we sell the most of. So let's take a look at that 3130 Hager template. I'm sorry, LCM. See what we can glean out of that. Yeah, not for installation in UL 20-minute doors. So it's for, you can't use it in a fire rated wood door because it's not a fire rated approved closer. But yeah, right here. Here's our answer. Our answer is wood door, wood frame, right here. So it'll work. I would be indicating the door and frame type so that the factory knows to supply the material with the correct fasteners. So this would be a good option for completely concealed. And in fact, this would be far more appropriate for the client to install, except you'll recall he said his door thickness was 1.5 inches. This is going to require a 1 3/8 wide prep, and that's just pretty unrealistic to have a 1/16 of an inch door skin. A door skin happening. Except the good thing is you don't really have a 1/16 of an inch door skin on both sides. You would only on one side. You will cut through the push face where the arm comes through, and it's shown here. No, it is shown here. This is what we're looking for. This apparently is the top of the door here. Yeah, here we go. Drawing's a little funny though. It looks like 3/8 down all the way across, and it goes to apparently the end of the door. Cutout for arm includes heel as shown. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, we're right. 23, cutout at top of door on stop side only. which would be the push side, assuming that you are standing with the door closed and not open. So 23 inch from the edge all the way over is what that's going to take. So you'll prep it like that. So that it may, I don't see why it wouldn't work, except of the trouble of mortising and leaving just a 1/16 of an inch wood over here. That would be the issue. So those are the 3 different closers that can be installed. Getting the good old 8960S installed, I suppose it's possible, but he just likely does not have the wood up in the header to make all that work. So at this point, if I was going to do the work, I would be looking at the LCN 3130, because I'm assuming that the prep in the header, now he's got, now, 1/16 is what that track height is going to be, so that's probably an issue in and of itself. And the problem is you've got to screw that up through the track as they're showing here. So that could be a non-starter as well. I had mentioned to the client that there were certainly double-acting surface-mounted closers, and I'm going to take a dive and see if I can find where that was. And it may have been Sargent. So I'm going to be looking in, let's look at a 1922 catalog. It may have been Rixson as well. And I know I've got an old Rixson catalog, yeah, 1920. Let's load these documents and let's see what we can get up to. I'll pause this video while I search. And I found it. It's on page 46 of the manufacturer's catalog from 1920. And it's in there. I think that was page 23 maybe. Let's try it. Yep. Double acting. I've seen these before, or something like it. So obviously you've got to have a hinge that's going to double act. Yeah, so it wouldn't work for the client because this check is meant for double acting spring hinges. And allows you to double act the door on those double acting spring hinges, but it brings the door to rest at center without any flip flap. Technical term, flip flap. That's it. That door will both go out and come back in, because that parallel arm bracket, that's a challenging drawing to actually study to see how that works. That all is going to go underneath the header, even though it doesn't appear to be that way. And it has hydraulic fluid to allow you to control that door, so really nifty. So is it a double-acting surface-mounted door closer? No, it's not. It's a door check. It's meant to check the door. Check, I think of the word check as in the sport of hockey, where someone's been checked. An absolute stop to an absolute stop to movement. And that's what that number 44 is intending to talk about. Checking the door, stopping the momentum or movement of the door. So it does, or did exist. And the client could get rid of his center hung pivot. He just could. And there are still double acting spring hinges available for an 1.5 inch thick door. So that is possibly an option, but quite inelegant. And I am not familiar with anyone who, there is no one that makes a double acting door check like the 100-plus-year-old Rixson number 44. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Regarding the links to ads that you might see in this video, we do apologize for any interruption to a smooth viewing experience. And hopefully the ads that are being presented to you are related to the base product. And if there is something, feel free to click on those and perhaps consider taking a look at what that other advertiser is promoting. Let's get back to the video. Okay, so that is a bit of a quandary that the client's in. It's really helpful to know what the client's going to want at the end of the job or expect to see, so that you can design that in the beginning of the project. And the conversation later goes into custom fabrication of items, and it goes into meeting clients' needs in a way that allows you to bring complexity to the project without any additional cost. And it also allows you to supply material that others can't. If you have any questions on these concealed door closers or any other concealed hardware, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.